comes from the book of Daniel, the Old Testament book of Daniel, chapter 3, verses 13 through 15. Thank you for putting that in the comment section. I appreciate it. Daniel chapter 3, verses 13 through 15. And they read this way. Then Nebuchadnezzar, in his rage and fury, commanded to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Then they brought these men before the king. Nebuchadnezzar spake and said unto them, Is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? Do not ye serve my gods, nor worship the golden image which I have set up? Now, if ye be ready, that at what time ye hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and dulcimer, and all kinds of music, ye fall down and worship the image which I have made, well. But if ye worship not, ye shall be cast the same hour into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. And who is that God that shall deliver you out of mine hands? The word of God for the people of God, and the people of God said, Amen. We'd like to use as a subject, respectfully, I just don't care. Respectfully, I just don't care. Good morning to you, brother. It's good to see you, man.
Yes, sir.
Really good to see you. So, to provide a little bit of context, God's people had gotten out of line yet again. And it was made clear that the enemy of the day was going to come in and completely destroy where you live. A bunch of people are going to die, and several people are going to go into captivity. They will become slaves, and there will be a situation where you're going to have to deal with some difficult times. That's context. During the course of this, the typical thing that would happen is that whoever came in and took control, they would seek out the best and the brightest of whoever it was that was in the place that they just conquered. People who look good, people who were articulate, people who were extremely smart, people who could help them further their situation. We found this out with Daniel, with the refusal to eat from the king's table. And we find this out again with 3 Hebrew boys named Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Now the problem is, this is their slave names. Their actual names are Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. This is their real names. Now this is important. Please hold on to that, because we're going to get into it again later on in the message. What happened was, they were given opportunities to lead. They were given opportunity to have some rule within the rulership structure of King Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar decides to have a golden image built, and the instruction was, whenever you hear the instruments playing in concert with one another, I want everybody all over the place to bow down and worship the image that I have set up. That was the instruction. I bring this up because Nebuchadnezzar might not be the issue. The issue might be, why in the world do we have to deal with a Nebuchadnezzar in the first place? Why should there be a Nebuchadnezzar in our lives in the first place? It's not really a problem that someone is so self-centered and so self-absorbed that they want to be worshipped. They want someone to build an image of them, and they want everybody to pay attention to this image all at once and worship it, that's not really an issue. We know people like that. We know people who are such attention seekers that they want all of our attention, even if it takes our attention away from God. This is why you might have some folk asking you, why are you doing so many things in your assignment rather than spending more time with me? Why are you doing all of these things rather than giving me some attention? There are some attention seekers. There are some Nebuchadnezzars in our lives. And my position is, why are we railing against? Why are we trying to change? Why are we asking those people who are like that? Why are we asking them to change rather than saying, listen, why are you in my life in the first place? Why in the world is this going on in the first place? Some of us have invited the Nebuchadnezzar that we are now having to fight against. Nebuchadnezzar is in our lives for so many of us because we invited him in. And so now, we got to understand what's happening. Prior to this moment, there were other people in charge. And there must have been a situation where the music played and the expectation was that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were going to bow down. But Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah didn't bow down. They didn't bow at all because they refused to worship the gods and they refused to bow down to the statue presented or made or set up by the same guy who gave them some opportunities. Now I got to get into this thing about opportunities because there are some people who have given unto you. There are some people who have poured into you. And for some reason, they now think they have control over you because they have funded something, because they showed up at something, because they have given you a position, they have given you a title, they have given you some status in their raggedy situation. They're now under the impression that they control your soul. They control the condition of your life. This is not true. This is not true. Let me make sure everybody understands this. That just because some people have supported some things, because you survived the massacre. Because the truth is, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, and Daniel and them, they survived the massacre. They survived. For whatever reason, God allowed them to stay alive when a whole bunch of people died. I bring this up because it's possible that a lot of people got massacred in a lot of situations, and God allowed you to survive. God allowed you to remain alive and be used, not for the glory of a pagan kingdom, but for the glory of God himself. I bring this up because I don't want you to feel under pressure anymore to do what other folk are wanting you to do that completely disrespects the God that you serve. Because it was this. This is the reason why they were in this position in the first place. This is the reason why they had to deal with this in the first place, is because God's people decided, I will no longer honor God. I'm going to function in life the way I feel like it. And that's just the way that it will be. Now, the problem with this is, now that God has left you alive, you got a choice now. Are you going to do the same thing that God's people did to get you in trouble and to have you under the rule of Nebuchadnezzar in the first place? Or are we going to stand, look Nebuchadnezzar right in the face and tell him respectfully, I just don't care. I understand what you're saying. I understand what you want. I understand your expectation. I even recognize the fact that you could have put me in a dungeon somewhere, but you decided to put me in charge. Despite all of that, respectfully, I just don't care. Now, with all of this, there are a few things I would like to share with us just as a point of encouragement. And then we're going to move on. You guys can enjoy this day. I pray I see some of you in Sunday school today. I would like to talk about the authority, the question, and the proposition. Um, with every believer, there does come a moment, particularly behind enemy lines, where we have to deal with the authority, we got to deal with the question, and we have to deal with the proposition. So the question. Verse 15 says, verse 13 says, then Nebuchadnezzar in his rage and fury commanded to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Then they brought these men before the king. All right, so here's what happened. There was an insistence that they bring these dudes in. Now, there will come a moment, believer, there will become a moment, my brother and my sister. This is the reason why we can't waste a lot of time on a lot of nonsense. This is why we cannot procrastinate in upgrading the quality of our relationship with God, because there will come a moment when we will be face to face with the authority. Now, let's put this into some context. Nebuchadnezzar represented a lot of things, but the main thing he represented was punishment. He was the embodiment of punishment. Because the only reason Nebuchadnezzar was able to do what he did, the only reason Nebuchadnezzar was in the position that he was in, the only reason he had rule over God's people in the first place is because God's people decided not to honor God for an extended amount of time. And so now they've got to deal with the punishment. There will come a moment when you will have to look authority in the face. What are you going to say? There will be a moment when you will be called into the chamber. You will be called right into the principal's office. You will be called right into the manager's room. You will be called to come and see your supervisor. How are you going to handle authority when you are faced with authority? Because the issue is they have a title, they have a name, and they have a piece of land. But you belong to the creator of the universe. Are you going to stand when you are presented with this opportunity to visit with authority? Now, he was angry. Nebuchadnezzar was very angry when he sent for them. There are some people in your life that are angry because you are not doing what they're telling you to do. Now, I need to make sure we don't misunderstand what's happening here. I can't waste the time trying, arguing and complaining. That's a good way to put it. Arguing and complaining about what the authority is doing, because many of us are the reason why they are in authority in the first place. We're going to get into that later on at 11. So come on back and join us at 11. But it's a waste of time. He's creating gods. He has all kinds of gods, and he's even built an image, a statue. He wants all of us to worship that thing, that ugly thing. He wants us all. Resources have been taken from programs that can help people. Resources have been taken from programs that can aid in people getting their lives together. There are some programs that may stop, or they may be downgraded because the resources that went to that, they're now going to build this image, so that we all have to worship. We all have to see this ugly statue. And so, does this sound familiar at all? All of this is going on, and many people are spending or literally wasting time arguing about a person who is self-centered, who is self-absorbed, who is self-indulgent. And instead of saying, whatever he does, I recognize that we're in this position because we did not honor God. Before I say another word about whoever it is and whatever administration thinks they're in charge, we're going to set this thing right by honoring God. So when you are faced with authority, what are you going to do? Because please understand, it might not be a happy meeting. You might be walking into rage. Some of you in your own lives. When you decide to get things right, you may be walking into rage. The reason they're in this mess in the first place is because when the music happened prior to this moment, they didn't bow. There are people who are around who can't wait to tell authority that you're not doing what you were told to do. There are meetings and there are conversations happening about you. I need you to recognize, are you prepared to look authority in the face? Are you prepared to look the people in the face who can't wait to tell thus and so? Respectfully, I just don't care. I recognize what you've given me. I recognize who you are. I recognize who the army thinks you are. I recognize all of this. And without being belligerent, I need to tell you that respectfully, I just don't care. Now, once we understand that we're going to have to deal with authority, then we'll have to deal with the question. There's a conversation that is inevitable. There's a moment that is absolutely inevitable, and we must be prepared for moments like this, which is why we cannot waste time on things that simply don't matter. Verse 14 says, Nebuchadnezzar spake and said unto them, Is it true? Here's the question. O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, do not ye serve my God, nor worship the golden image which I have set up? The question becomes, I told you what to do, you knew what was expected, and you didn't do it. Now this comes from a place of authority. First of all, it comes up because I am the king, and you should do whatever the king says because he said do it. But even deeper than that, this comes from a person who have placed some people in authority. So of course you're going to do what I told you because I have made your life comfortable. I've made your punishment a little more comfortable. You eat better, you sleep better, you have better opportunities, you're able to have some rule over your folk. You are a slave, but you can tell other slaves what to do. You have the king's ear. Here's the opportunity here. So why in the world are you not doing what I told you? Please understand, be careful when people are freely giving you stuff because there might be an agenda behind it. Please understand, some people are not being nice. They're not just singularly being kind. Some people are doing things because they're trying to purchase your loyalty. They're trying to purchase you. They're trying to purchase pieces of your soul. Because if you have this opportunity from me, of course you're going to worship me when I tell you to. The question was, is this true? I heard. Now this indicates that Nebuchadnezzar didn't know because he didn't see it. The only reason this is on his mind is because somebody showed up and told him. Please understand, that there are conversations happening. There are meetings happening about you. The reason Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are in a meeting with the king in the first place is because somebody told him that they did not bow down and worship the image when the music began to play. He had no idea until he was told. He was getting confirmation. Now, in your moment, when you are questioned and you are called to give confirmation, are you going to confirm to authority that regardless of what you say, regardless of the power you think you have, I belong to God? So when it comes to this question of worship, I understand all the parameters and what could possibly happen to me, but respectfully, I just don't care. Are we going to look authority in the face and let them know that, hey, I know what you're wanting and I know what you're expecting, but even in this place, I still belong to God. You might have given me some status. God is the one who gave me life. You are making my life here a little bit more comfortable. But I'm interested in eternal life. I am loyal to the one true living God. And based on that, I simply don't care. And once we get that figured out, we understand we got to deal with the authority. Then we got to deal with the question. And then here comes what may be the toughest moment for some people, the proposition. In verse 16, verse 15, I apologize. Now if ye be ready, that at what time ye hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and dulcimer, and all kinds of music. I want to spend a little time with that. And all kinds of music. Ye fall down and worship the image which I made well. But if ye worship not, ye shall be cast the same hour into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. And who is that God that shall deliver you out of my hands? Now we have the proposition. Here's the moment where either I'm going to show up or I'm not. Based on the conversation, the king asked if it's true, but he began to operate as though it is. And it appears that he's giving these guys another chance. What does this mean for you and I? Some of you have bosses that will say stuff like, well, regardless of who or what it is you believe in, this is what we insist that you do. Now, there are some things that are just business, but there are some things that have to do with the condition of my soul. Some of you have relationships that people are asking you to do things that you know is completely out of pocket relative to your relationship with God. There are some situations that we might be in, and folk are literally asking us, almost demanding that we do things that are completely out of pocket with the Lord. And the issue is, if you don't do this, if you don't do it, if you do, then fine. We're all good. We don't have to revisit this. We don't have to think about this no more. We can move on. But if you don't, I'm going to put you in some fire. Now, I need us to recognize what's happening here, because many of you have had the same threat. If you don't do this, I'm going to make your life miserable. If you don't do this, I'm going to rip your life to shreds. If you don't do what I'm demanding that you do, I'm going to make sure you are not uncomfortable, but you are absolutely miserable. I'm going to rain down misery in your life. I'm literally going to try to destroy. That's not true. I'm going to destroy you if you don't do what I'm telling you to do. Here's the moment, and this is the proposition. Where are you with God right now? What's going on with you and the Lord? How committed are we to the Lord? I need us to recognize this, because the king thinks he's talking to Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, but he's actually talking to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Now, Pastor Riley, what are you talking about? You've brought that up 3 times, but I'm just not sure what you're talking about. So here's the deal. So one of the things that would happen when someone was taken over, some of you remember a scene in a movie called Roots, where a young man was being beaten across the back until he acknowledged his new name. As a matter of fact, the young man asked him who his name was, and the brother who was chained up, he was saying that my name is Kunta Kinte. But the more he was hit on the back. The guy who was slapping him and hitting him and striking him on the back wanted him to say that his name is Toby. Jacoby because I'm going to change your name. That's not exclusive to black people and our history. That is expanded. That is inclusive to anyone who took slaves. They would change the name of the person because changing the name would change the identity. If you change the identity of a person, everything they used to be is now behind him. Now, the issue is he is speaking to Hananiah, Meshach. He is talking to Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. That's their new names. That's their slave names. But their actual names are Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. It is real easy for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to bow down to their new king, except for the fact that Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah never died. Now, what are we talking about here? Just because someone gives you another name, that doesn't mean you have to respond. That doesn't mean you have to act that way. It doesn't mean you have to completely give up your identity in God. Now, the reason we bring this up, the reason we're talking about it now, we're going to expand this at 11 a.m. Please come back because we got some more to talk about. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego might have said, "Sir, yes, we will do what you told us to do." Because you gave Hananiah, you gave Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, you gave them opportunity. You gave Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego good food. You gave Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego comfortable living. You gave Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego some authority in your kingdom. But here is the deal. God is the one who made us, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. And everything that God has done for us will always be more valuable than what you can do for us, oh Nebuchadnezzar. So respectfully, I don't care. Whatever it is that happens to me now. Whatever happens to my life, however it turns out, whatever I got to deal with, respectfully, I just don't care. What are the action steps? What are the action steps? We're just about done, y'all. So when I'm approached with authority, when authority calls me in, I got to remember my real name. I must remember my real name, not the name that I was given, but my real name. In your quietest moments, what is God calling you? Not they. What is God calling you? Who is your identity in God? Now, the problem with this, Brother Quentin, the problem with this is if I don't know me, then I can't really be me. If I'm not sure what my true identity is, I'm liable to take on the identity of whatever. I'm liable to take on whoever they say I am. I'm liable to be that person. So some of us might have to understand that since I don't know or I'm unsure in my identity with God himself, I got to recognize that I got to go ahead and fix that first, because I might be worshiping Nebuchadnezzar. I might be saying that I love God, I adore God, but the truth might be that I'm worshiping Nebuchadnezzar, because God's people are the reason that Nebuchadnezzar is in their lives in the first place. Because the only reason he was able to conquer God's people is because God allowed it, because God's people refused to honor him. I got to make sure that I understand who's really in charge. I got to get that straight. Once we figure that out, then I've got to clearly hear the question. Some people are not listening. Some people are just waiting to talk. I've got to clearly hear the question. The question was, is it true that you refuse to bow down? That's the question. The answer should always be yes. The issue is some people are not listening to the entirety of the question, because the question that he asked had to do with information that he got from somewhere else, which indicates to us is there's always somebody with their eyes squarely on you. There are some people who are faking this. There are some people who are sitting in corners and they are just as quiet as they can be. They are trying to see if you are who you really say you are, because some people are mad with you because you got some position. Some people are mad with you because God is using you in this moment as opposed to them. Some people are mad mad with you because you just came in. You are a slave. You have no real name. You got no real identity. We are supposed to be ruling you. And yet God has put you in position to be in charge of some things, to bring his influence into a thing. Please understand. You got to hear the question clearly. Lastly, the proposition. How you going to deal with the proposition? Now, please understand, it is an ultimatum, and it is clear. Um, do what I say, and you'll be fine. Do it the way I want you to do it, and you'll be fine. Do the opposite, and you just might lose your life. Now, this is a very real threat. This is a very real proposition. It is entirely possible that we can lose our lives on this side of it, standing up for God. I've got to be okay with that before anything happens. This is why I cannot waste my time on any nonsense, because we are dealing with a very real situation. We're dealing with a guy who's been given permission to take out some people who God loves. Now we must understand, and we'll get into the next part of this at 11, but please understand action step number 3. When I'm presented with this proposition, if I'm all in, then I'm all in, and I can't flinch, I cannot hesitate, and I can't, what's that word? Stutter. I cannot stutter. I must look authority right in the face, particularly when I'm on the right side of righteousness. I've got to look authority in the face and let them know that respectfully, I just don't care. That's all we have for this morning.